down women with diluted dreams. Our hope for joy has been washed down the stream.
I'm Robin Hawkins, and you're listening to Watered Down Women.
Hoping to be free, found a new home in the cemetery.
In 1623, poet John Donne wrote his timeless prose, Devotions upon Emergent Occasions, in which he states, "Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind. Therefore, never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." Essentially, Donne was saying that because each of us is a part of mankind as a whole, then the death of any single one is a death to all. Even the phrase death toll, which refers to the number of deaths that result from one particular cause, can be traced indirectly back to Donne's sermon, in that both the noun form of toll, meaning damage, and the verb form of toll, meaning ring out, are reflected in this well-known passage. Since the inception of this podcast, we've learned that the death bell has tolled for Eliza Hall, Kathy Smith, Shirley Carver, Ella Fair Schofer, 9 infants in Mansfield's North End during the summer of 1949, Betty Dyer in 1972, and most recently, it rang out for Melinda K. Davis. Murderous deaths of notable men have been recorded throughout history, and it seems easier to recall their names and circumstances than it does for high-profile women. Most high school-aged children can cite the accounts of prominent males whose lives were taken by the hands of others. Great men such as Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. readily come to mind. And numerous young people learned in their primary Sunday school classes that Abel was the very first man to be murdered, as he was slain by his very own brother, Cain. However, most people struggle when it comes to recalling the name of the very first woman to be murdered. Even if a name does come to mind, there's often debate or controversy as to if it was truly Lot's wife, who was turned into a pillar of stone, or Jezebel, who was pushed out of a window by the 3 eunuchs. And in regards to Jezebel, was it the fall that actually killed her? Or did she die by being trampled by the horses, or by being devoured by the dogs? You see, history is quite vague when it comes to recording statistics and information about females. And if the Bible hadn't documented their accounts, we'd have no way of knowing much of anything about women from that era. Honestly, not much has changed in reference to females. During this past year of digging into the history and lives of our victims, I've learned that written documentation isn't easy to come by, nor is there an abundance of reachable and reliable witnesses to contact. Several obstacles impede my research and hinder the number of available informational resources. But my biggest frustration comes from a seeming lack of interest from those who are more qualified than I to get to the truth and bottom line in these cases. I'm not trying to solve these crimes. That is the job of the authorities. I am simply trying to be a voice for those whose voices have been silenced. In the August 18, 2003 edition of the Mansfield News Journal, an article was published that listed all of the unsolved homicides that remained under the investigation of the Mansfield Police Department and Richland County Sheriff's Department's Homicide Unit. Nearly 20 years later, 8 women whose murders were included on that list remain unsolved to this day. Those women, Diana Jenkins, Patricia Kitts, Deborah Holbrook, Marcia Matthews, Gaitha Bowman, Diana Shaw, Deborah Miller, Elaine Wright, along with Garcia Johnson and Holly Kreider, still have unsolved deaths and untold stories. Recently, I met with several listeners of the Watered Down Women podcast, and we discussed some commonalities among our victims. And in an overwhelming consensus, we agreed that the most significant characteristic shared by these women was low self-esteem. In the feedback received during that meeting, it became evident that many women today still suffer from some form of negative self-image, and that several factors contribute to this perception. Among those determinants are a lack of education, involvement in toxic relationships, victim blaming, unhappiness with their physical appearance, and learned negative behaviors. When questioned about their confidence and their ability to physically protect themselves, most felt that they would be unable to provide adequate self-defense if needed to do so. In regards to their power to establish and set clear boundaries, some reported an inability to define perimeters or lessen their vulnerability. The outcome of this meeting culminated with the agreement that women need to be better equipped with the tools necessary to construct the confident, courageous, and capable person they were purposed to be. Now the questions become how, what, where, and when. How can we work together to empower other women and help build positive self-esteem? What types of tools will need to be added to our mental toolboxes to prepare us for the task? When and where will this type of programming occur? My plan is to equip women with the materials and means needed to build a more self-reliant and self-assured belief in themselves. Because I truly believe that our positive well-being isn't derived by how we look, but in how we see, especially in how we see that person who greets us in the mirror. So, with that said, the Watered Down Women podcast will now begin a summer hiatus in order to develop a workshop designed to teach my listeners about their own value and importance, in hopes that they will never become the subject of one of my episodes. Over the next couple of months, set your shovels aside and rest up for the work that lies ahead. More exciting details about this hands-on learning experience will be shared on the website watereddownwomen.com and on the Watered Down Women Facebook page. And as for the weekly episodes, there are many more stories to tell. So you'll need those shovels sharpened up and ready to dig in when the summer ends.
Watered down women with diluted dreams. Our hope for joy has been washed down the stream.
Grab a shovel and join me each Monday as we dig a little deeper and uncover the tragedies of watered down women.
In the cemetery, weekend in life while searching for love.